Well, welcome out there once again to my show. Always a pleasure to be here and always happy to have you out there watching. Once again, I have the school committee personnel here, school committee man, Joseph Martins and Gabe Andrade. They've been on a number of times before, and they always present some interesting information that you don't usually get. You read the paper, you get a little here and there, you watch the school committee meeting, sometimes you get something, sometimes you don't get it that clear. But with these two, we get right down to the issue, and we get very clear information and very clear facts. So once again, welcome committee man Joseph Martins and
Thank you, Richard.
committee man Gabriel. Is it Gabriel?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, call you Gabe for short, right?
That's correct.
Andrade. So how's everything going?
Very well.
Very well.
Yes.
So,
I feel great. Very well.
You're getting ready for Skills?
Personally,
That's right. Yep. Just.
Getting ready for Skills USA?
Oh yes,
Diamond.
indeed. Looking forward to that.
Into this month.
That's
About
right.
a couple of more weeks.
Yes. Yep.
Well, that's
It's
good.
always a fun activity.
Yeah, they have that good noon meal too.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Gabe, you won't be there this year.
no, I won't. We have the kids, the grandchildren at home. One was manageable, but two would be tough to handle for my wife alone. So, and that's the long day. I believe that's a Wednesday, which is the long day with them. We have them until 6 or later. So.
Oh. So anyway, superintendent, the selection of a new superintendent for the school district, moving right along. I noticed that you've come out with a, it was noted in the paper, a salary range. How did you get to come up with that range of salary?
I think part of it was we had talked figures when the committee was still trying to negotiate a renewal of the superintendent's contract. So a lot of that came from what we were talking about at that time, and then we checked with Glenn Kuchar of the Mass Association of School Committees, who's our consultant, and he pretty much told us that that particular figure was on track. Pretty much, and he recommended it.
His name is Kuchar?
Kuchar. Not Kuchar as we would know it here in Fall River, the French Kuchar. It's spelled K-O-O-C-H-E-R.
Is he going to be at Skills USA?
No.
Okay.
He has been in the past, though. I'm not sure whether...
Name sounds familiar.
He has been. In fact, he was with... did you do it with us, with myself and Ed Hill?
There's a Kuchar who does auto repair estimates for insurance companies right over here in Fall River, but they're not related.
Yeah, this guy usually worked on I forgot what they call that section. It used to be Tech Prep Showcase, but they changed the name maybe a year, 2 years ago. And he also worked on the business meeting.
Okay. At Skills USA?
At Skills USA,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, because name sounds familiar. Now, has there been any applicants?
Well, the advertisements just got into the papers and magazines or trade journals just recently. In fact, I received a copy of what went into the Herald News, just looking at it just today, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so the process is just somewhat begun.
Correct.
No, I just while the committee voted for 170 to 200,000, I objected. My opinion, 200,000 was too much. That's why I objected. I said no on that because the current superintendent isn't earning that much. She'll get that 200,000 in Barnstable, but she wasn't offered that amount of money for the brief negotiations that we did have with her. And I just felt that it was too much for the city. I realize that it has to be well compensated, that's true, but that the $200,000 was a little bit too high.
Did the mayor vote for that?
Yes, he did.
Was the mayor in the affirmative for the
Yes.
range?
Yes.
All right. So, all right, so superintendent selection is moving right along. I heard a little about class size. Is that an issue that has cropped up again? It seems like it's
Well, the budget is, was sent back to committee, to the finance subcommittee.
you're the chairman.
And I'm the chair of that, yes. Because the total scope of the budget is beyond what the city can appropriate, even though 80% of it is state funded, but still is a big chunk of change that the city would have to come up with. So it's been sent back to the finance subcommittee, and I guess there is some concern with regards, okay, are you going to cut back on teachers? What are you going to do? And if you cut back on teachers, what does that mean as far as class size? You're putting more teachers into, more students into fewer teachers. That you know, that's a concern.
Yeah.
I have been looking at the budget, and I want to start with where we're looking at what the net school spending is, the minimum school spending, and carry over. What carryovers do we have to bring forward? And I'm not quite convinced at the amount of carryover just yet. I will be speaking with Kevin Almeida with regards to, I want to know exactly how much carryover money has to go forward from FY16 to FY17. And then adding those two together, adding the carryover money, adding the net school spending, I know what that is. That's $133 million. But I'm not certain as to the carryover funds, right? And that's the amount that we need to get to. That's the minimum that the city by law would have to provide in there. And then we have to make it so that the students receive a quality education within the parameters of that amount of money.
Right, so if the money isn't there, fewer teachers, class size goes up, is that the way it works?
Absolutely.
Gabe?
And there are obviously other things to cut, but it's not going to be strictly teachers. However, what we would like to do is to make that the last resort, to look at where we can economize elsewhere before we start laying off classroom teachers. However, as we look at the amount of money that we're going to be short, and it looks like, based on the figures that we got at the last meeting, it looks like it's going to be over $7 million. Short.
Wow.
Of, let's say, what is termed a level services budget, a budget where no one is laid off, all programs remain.
You'll be 7 million short.
About 7 million short. So when it's 7 million short, you know that you're, in some respects, you're going to have to cut to the bone to get down to the net school spending level. So at that point there are no easy decisions. The question came up in terms of administrators, you know, where we could cut administrators and save the classroom teachers. However, the total administrative budget, as was explained last night, totals up. That means everyone, superintendent down to every principal, vice principals, etc., is $5 million. But we're short $7 million. So if we laid off everybody, we had no administrators left in this, that we're still $2 million short.
Now, when you come to class size,
But that's not possible. We're not going to get rid of all of the administrators.
No,
right?
Obviously.
And that comment that come up at, and I don't know who did it, I thought that was not an appropriate comment. I was going to think of another word to use, but...
ingenuous?
I'm sorry?
Disingenuous.
Yeah, I mean,
Disingenuous.
yeah, we're not going to get rid of all of the administrators. Of course, you need to have administrators. You need to have principals. You need to have some vice principals. You need to have the superintendent. You need to have an assistant superintendent. You know. However, there are some administrators that can be let go, right? There are other programs that you can do without, and to keep as much people as possible. That $7 million is to keep a level funded budget.
Level funded.
Sorry, a level
level
service
services,
budget, right? I
correct.
said the wrong word. It's to keep a level service budget, and but that's the whole crutch. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
And so we have to cut back.
So
and
even with all the taxes and the fees the city generates and brings in, there is just not enough, and that's the way it is.
correct. There isn't enough to, even though the state is paying 80% of it, that 20% is beyond our ability.
Okay, to generate in the city, as far as
Correct.
fees and taxes, et cetera.
Yes.
The mayor made, threw out a figure yesterday, Monday also, that that highlighted just how difficult it is to afford this kind of money, this kind of gap, strictly with local funds. He said an increase of 2.5% on the tax rate, which is the most that we can do under Proposition 2.5.
Without an override.
Correct. Will bring in about $3 million. But we have
Yeah.
so if all of that money was dedicated to the school department, it still wouldn't cover that gap.
So, the school department budget has to be, does it have to be submitted by a certain time?
It's supposed to go to the school, to the city council by June 1st.
All right, so still have about a month and a half,
Right.
and I imagine the school department, school committee is still working on the budget.
Correct.
Correct.
What are you
Yeah.
going to, what's the scenario? I mean, $7 million. How are you
Well,
going to get out of
again,
this?
My goal, well, I would love to have all the money to provide for level service.
Sure.
Okay? But that's not possible. The comment that I made was I would not want the level service budget to be advanced to the city council and also to the community for we have to have a public meeting on the budget, knowing full well that we can't do that. We can't come up with that kind of money. So let's have a realistic budget to send to the city council and to the public to say, look, this is what we can do. So with that, I think it was pretty clear that the mayor was a little upset in regards to the amounts of money, and he's being pulled in all kinds of directions for funding, and I understand that. But the minimum that we have to provide by law is the net school spending, 133 million plus something, okay? And any carryover from previous years that has to go forward with there.
Now, when you say carryover, do you mean that, well, what do you mean by carryover?
It's that for FY 16, the year that we're in right now,
Yeah.
the budget is something like $131 million, okay? We're not going to meet that. So that difference has to be brought now to FY 17,
All right.
right? Which is going to add to the 133.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that is the minimum that we're going to be that we have to come up with. And that's what I want to bring forward. Say, look, this is the amount of money we need to get in there. Now, I want to meet with
Let me just ask you, has that happened a number of years in a row where you had to have a carryover?
that's that deficit. Yes, that's happened for the past 3 years.
And that's really not good, because it keeps your net school spending plus that carryover.
Right.
is rising.
Absolutely so.
And the city doesn't bring in the revenue that you need to pay for all that you would like to have. And of course, the state only gives you, well, 80%. 80% of what? What does the state give you? 80% of what?
80% of that 133 million.
Okay. So if you go up to 135 million, you'll get 80% of
No.
No, the 80% of the net school spending figure. If you
All right,
decide to
so
spend more than that,
the
you don't get
carryovers
80%
are
of
not
that.
counted in the 80%.
Not in the reimbursement, because it was
Okay.
already
That's right.
reimbursed in previous years,
All right.
okay? That gets carried over. You're allowed to, the minimum that you can do is 95%. You have to make that 95%. But that 5% that you didn't make, that gets carried over the next year.
What's the solution? Because this seems to be a dire situation. If it keeps getting carried over, what is the outcome?
Well,
Bankruptcy?
the community can only raise funds in a few ways: through taxation, through fees. That's about the only ways that
So
they.
how does this get rectified in the end?
I guess it's a matter of increasing taxes and increasing fees in there, which
Well,
is
it'd
not
have
a
to be
good
an
thing to do.
override. There would have to be an override because the mayor's already said that 2.5 increase is only going to bring in about 3 million.
That's correct.
Right.
So it has to go over the 2.5%.
You know,
And the city's not, the city economy, and I'll just add this, is not growing at the pace where 2.5 is going to bring in additional
No.
money. So like big companies came in and, they bought up a whole bunch of land and put up these big factories and paying, enormous amounts of taxes. But still, this is,
no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I think also we've been off on our forecasts the last couple of years at least, and it's for instance, we got shocked with the increase in health care costs this year. They had been going down for at least the last 3 years. Now all of a sudden they went up dramatically this year, and that's because the school department gets charged based on the amount of claims that come from within the school department. So they went up dramatically this
you
year.
had additional claims.
And that's a cost that we could not have anticipated.
Right,
We figure about the same, maybe a little bit more, and you budget for that. But then when it's more than that, it's a surprise.
Well, especially if you don't have the money.
Correct. But at least if you can forecast it correctly, maybe you cut back a little bit here, and
Okay,
you
something else would
budget
be
correctly,
cut.
so that you're not in trouble at the end of the
Because
year.
what you've done, you've spent over here.
Correct.
Not expecting an increase over
that-
here, and this
that's
goes
correct.
up, so.
But the solution is, several years ago, it should have been determined, you do what I did at Diamond, minimum school spending. Make it work with that minimum school spending. And don't go over it. My position when I was the superintendent at Diamond, and I went to the communities, Westport, Somerset, Swansea, and Fall River, I told them, this is the minimum school spending. This is, for each community, this is what you have to provide by law to the operation of Diamond. I knew doggone right well that if I went over it, I wouldn't have a job, all right? And he was on the school committee for a while when I was the superintendent. So was Paul Coogan on the school committee for a while when I was the superintendent. But even before that, there was a minimum school spending.
And you were
have to-
expected to stay within that.
Absolutely so. And I was expected to provide for
Well, so
the
what's
needs of those students.
What's happened with the Fall River budget? I mean, the superintendents, or the superintendent, whoever it was expected to maintain the budget, stay within the budget. Wasn't that person obligated to do that? So
and I
what
thi-
happened? How did he?
I think she has, for the most part. The first year, we had a serious problem with it was the transportation issue. Now, for 3 years in a row prior to that, the transportation budget had come in, we had spent about 5.4 million each year. It was fairly stable. This is going back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The figure came in at 7.4, which was, now we could have anticipated maybe that it would have gone up, but $2 million, that was quite a hit at that time. In 3 years, that has gone up a total of $3 million. So approximately 2 million that first year, another million this year. We're now at about 8.4 million from what it was 3 years ago, 5.4. So I think some of this is costs that were unanticipated, cost increases that were unanticipated at the time.
Let me ask you this. Now, trash collection, et cetera, sanitary budget has been in the news for who knows how long now. The school department, when you have your trash collected, who collects your trash?
The city?
The city collects your trash.
Correct.
So you actually pay the city a certain amount of money to have your trash collected?
Well, I believe most of that is paid out of tax revenue from the general fund. I believe it may be budgeted for the Department of Community Maintenance. There are
Okay,
also
so
the
that
purple
fund-
bags, the pay-as-you-throw. There's a certain amount of money that goes into that. Like we'll buy the trash bags and whatnot. And this year we also had that I forget what they call it, that $10 fee.
Apartment fee.
Apartment fee.
But trash collection doesn't come out of the school budget? Trash collection?
Oh, for the school department itself, you said?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I'm not absolutely certain as to, well, I know that we have to pay for snow removal for
School
the
department
city.
pays for its own.
But as far as trash is concerned, I'm not certain. That's a good question. I'll have to ask about what it is. But in either case, if it's part of, see, in addition to the net school spending, that includes the city's appropriation for education-related expenditures, snow removal from the school buildings and grounds. You know, that's part of the city's contribution to education, and that is figured into the net school spending, okay? Or meeting that amount, meeting the net school spending. Trash, I don't know if we have some private haulers or it's the total. I know we have some big compactors that the trucks that we see operating around the city. I don't know if those trucks are capable of emptying out a compactor, because there's some pretty big compactors.
I guess the reason I asked that question is because if the city of Fall River were to go private as far as trash collection, would then the school department be obligated to pay a private hauler to remove its trash, and would that add to your budget?
I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
Absolutely so.
question.
But the more of these peripheral things that you add to the budget, there's that less amount that's available for education of students.
Yeah.
You know. Interesting.
Well, the way things are going with this, removing the city's trash and the closing of the dump, which has been going on for years, pay as you throw, that doesn't seem to have worked out that well, even though there's talk of more stricter enforcement. The apartment fee apparently is going to be phased out.
Right.
So that's less money, and that almost seems like an easy one to get, because if you don't pay your apartment fee, it's added to your tax. The city always has a lien in the end, but pay as you throw, well, that's the one they seem to want to keep, as part of generating fees.
When I look at the fees and the taxes, I, as a citizen, single-family house, okay, in there, I can't I cannot charge fees onto my income tax, federal income tax, right? Whereas taxes, I can lower my the taxable income in there. Well, from business standpoint, a fee for whatever service the city provides that company is an expense for the operation of that company.
Yep.
Taxes are an expense for that operation of that country. So they have, while they might not want to pay that, but nevertheless, it's taxable. It's a fee.
Deductible, yeah.
Where I do not receive any reduction in my taxable income because of fees. I can only deduct the taxes. Now, if there was a tax override that says, okay, this much taxes, this much fees, now go from here to there as the total amount of tax. Now I have at least something back by having that total amount to be reducing my taxable income for federal and state taxes.
You know the dirty word?
Oh yeah, absolutely so, override. I know that. I mean,
well, and people have talked about this. Years ago, you paid the tax. You get your fire, you get your police, your trash was picked up.
Yeah.
When they started to change all this, that's wherein the problems started to consume a lot of discussion in regards to how to charge for it, who should be charged. That started with the rainwater tax.
Yep.
And that mayor got booted out of office. Then we come along with pay-as-you-throw. That mayor was booted out of office. And you had this apartment fee, which people could not understand. That mayor got kicked out of office. When we paid one bill, you paid your taxes, everyone understood, but they don't understand all these fees and how they're assessed and who's supposed to pay. Mm-hmm. And, well, they've caused it themselves. They've brought it upon themselves with these outlandish, complicated, in a way, fees. Well, we're down to the end of the program. Gabe, any predictions? Anything you'd like to say?
Well, no real predictions. We will have a new superintendent, hopefully by July 1st. And that's
Joe,
about it.
Any prediction?
Oh, we'll have a superintendent in place. We're not going to be without a superintendent. So we will have someone in place well qualified to do the job.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, and see you in 3 weeks.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you out there for watching. I hope you enjoyed the information. I did. It's always educational for me also. So thank you out there, and I'll see you next time.